Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Tell you what, this season is a roller coaster, and that intro music sometimes sounds depressing. This week, it doesn't sound too bad. I'm personally hoping it sounds just as good next week. My guest on the show probably wishing the opposite. JSGC, one of the best Manchester City fan channels on YouTube. Second time on the channel. Thanks for joining us, my man. How are you?
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you. You?
All good, mate. We just had a little chat off air. I feel a lot better this week. Manchester City was one of the games prior to our Brighton results where I was just thinking, keep the goal difference down. I'm now thinking it may be a little bit of a free hit, but I'm sure we'll get into that. Anyone who knows these fan preview channels, shows that we do, we talk a lot about the opposition. We want to get the opposition perspective on their season so far, and also ours. And I'll chip in a little bit on City's as well. You spoke to Pricey in December before the Etihad, and it was 1-1. I remember watching it, and I remember, now, you're either very lucky or you're very, very clever, because you predicted that Everton might cause City trouble that day, and I sat there and I thought, he's not watched Everton all season. What happens? Everton dug in. We got a really good draw, I think. Just going back to that game, you haven't had many games like that, but was that a really frustrating afternoon for you, that one?
I was at the Etihad that day, and I felt all the frustrations from all the fans that had turned up. I remember doing that preview. I remember reading about the reaction to that after you'd put the video out. People were calling me crazy, saying I've got more hope in Everton than what anyone else has. I clearly don't watch Everton, but the one thing I do watch is Manchester City. Week in, week out, I know exactly how we play. I know how we're going to turn up. I know what we do. And Premier League opposition, regardless of who we're facing, we could face Arsenal, who are second. We could face Southampton, who are bottom. And I know exactly how we're going to set up, what we're going to do, what games are difficult, what games we can rotate in, what games we can't rotate in. And I know where we can come unstuck and how that's going to happen. And with that game at home, it's just we'd struggled with other home games in the build up to that. I remember with Brentford, we struggled with. And if you're a team that's going to sit deep, sit tight, and hit us on the counter attack, and as long as you put your chance away, because always we allow that one opportunity, you put it away, there's every chance you're going to come away from the game with something, particularly if City are having an off day. And I think that's something that we've really improved on in the second half of the season. We haven't had many of these frustrating games since Spurs away from home, Nottingham Forest away from home. These are two games that happened in February. Since then, we've gone on a big winning streak. We've won our last 10 Premier League games in a row. And at the moment, the only thing that's causing me any concern heading into this game is I've got a feeling Pep and the players have just got one eye on Real Madrid Wednesday night, and player fatigue as well, with us trying to push for a potential treble as well. May just be a couple of little sticking points when it comes to our team selection and our potential approach into this game.
You've missed one game out there, and it's the game that gives me a little bit of hope, and it's a game that, without making you sound too greedy, may be the only dark spot on your season, the Southampton EFL Cup game, where I watched that. I was on Sky Sports and I watched it, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. Is that a game that, despite you being so good, and I'll put these words in your mouth for you, it's about you, without you jinxing yourself, probably going to do the treble? Is that just that little black mark on this season for you?
The EFL Cup, something we've become so familiar with, that we've won a lot over the last decade or so, that in terms of a trophy, and if you used to say to me, well, there's one trophy we're not going to win, the EFL Cup is that. Now, that performance that we turned up with, I remember the game. It was from the mentality. It was a mentality problem from the City players, because we rotated the team. We've got a good squad. we turned up and we didn't perform. And thankfully, I haven't seen that since, and certainly not seen it in a Premier League game. So our approach on Sunday afternoon is going to be a little bit different to that from that Southampton game, because the players just didn't look that bothered. Maybe it's because they've been there, done that, and won the cup competition a few times, that they're not too fussed. We've not seen it in the FA Cup, any performance like that. We've certainly not seen it in the Champions League or the Premier League. So I am expecting City to rotate a little bit here at Goodison Park. I have a feeling, though, with how important the game is to us in particular, we need to keep interest off from Arsenal. And the only way we can do that is through winning games. And for us to win games, we have to turn up and we have to put out a strong team. And Real Madrid on Wednesday night's just further complicating things for us, because there's a couple of players. I don't know if you had a chance to watch us on Tuesday.
I did.
Look, some of the players look exhausted. They look absolutely knackered, and we've just not. It's a bit of a myth with our depth that we've got. Everyone says City have got great depth. You start chipping into our depth, there isn't too much there to provide quality competition. What we've got is a brilliant 14 or 15 players. Elsewhere beyond that, it's very hit and miss in our squad, and this is we're getting to a point here where the likes of Aymeric Laporte, Calvin Phillips, these are players that we need to be coming into our team and hitting the ground running. And they just, when they've been given the chance, haven't done that. And because of that, we can't rotate players at the back and in midfield. So the likes of Gundogan and De Bruyne are doing many more games and many more minutes than what we want them to be doing. And both them players, in particular Gundogan and De Bruyne, looked exhausted out there on Wednesday night. So I'm not sure if we're going to see them starting in this game or not.
I'm not too sure whether you're gaslighting or not, but you're sort of getting me a little bit more into it. You don't sound probably as positive as I thought you would.
We've got, and we've worked really hard to get up to this point in the season now, where we've got the advantage of having a free hit. You've got a free hit, we've got a free hit, and I've got a feeling that this game's going to be used as that. I can see there being a winner. I can see one of the teams going on to win it. I don't know who it's going to be. This game makes me more nervous than what it does on Wednesday night against Real Madrid, because I know what we're going to be starting with. I know what to expect from that game. With this, I've no idea. Pep could go out there and make 5 or 6 changes and just think we need to rotate the team. We're going to try and grind out a result here and try and get a win. If we don't, we've got 3 other Premier League games to go at, where if we win all 3 of them, we still win the Premier League regardless of what Arsenal do. I've just a feeling that if we are going to do that, it has to be this game that it happens in.
Look, I think they're all really. I think what you're saying there is it's more realistic from what I've gathered from the outside. I've maybe thought, and you probably know what I'm going to ask, but I want to ask another question first. The perception from the outside, for whatever reason, right or wrong, is that City fans with the Champions League, there's not really that connection. Pep Guardiola, from the outside, I think, has not only been brought in to put a prolonged period of success in the cabinet, but he has to put a Champions League trophy in. I think that's why, from the outside, he's been brought in. What's the perception from the inside, from the City fans? Are you now sort of warming more towards the fact that you want to win the Champions League? Because I think at first it seemed like you and the Champions League were just not. And by the way, it is Friday evening, so I've got protocols on. Cheers.
Why not enjoy it? Happy weekend. The Champions League is a strange one, because the sense from the club, the sense from the players. We saw a picture that Jack Grealish put up on his Instagram story, and right in the middle of a pillar that was on in City's training room, there was a poster, and it said success. And right on view, the biggest of the posters was Champions League success. To either side, not really in view, was the FA Cup and the Premier League. And I get the sense that that is the club's stance when it comes to success this season. The club want the Champions League. The players want the Champions League. And if we end up losing on Wednesday night, I can see the players and the club being absolutely distraught. And following that game with a Premier League game against Chelsea at the weekend, it's going to be very difficult for the players to be able to get over such a disappointing loss when we put ourselves in a brilliant position here to send ourselves to the Champions League final in picking up a result in Spain at the Bernabeu. So very much the sense from the club is they want the Champions League. From the fans' point of view, I saw an interesting video where someone was walking around Madrid asking the fans, would you rather lose to Manchester United in the FA Cup final but win the Champions League the week after, or vice versa? And the sense from all the fans, I'm going to mirror exactly what they say when domestic success to the fans means everything. Beating Manchester United in that FA Cup final means everything, because for 20, 30, 40 years, we've just had to take it from the United fans that they've been the bigger, better, more successful club. And the pendulum's just started to turn. And as it started to turn, it's nice. And what we don't want is losing to Manchester United, because it hurts more than anything else in the world. Saw it from my reaction when we lost back in January at Old Trafford. It's a defeat that hurt more than any other this season, and losing in a cup final hurts. And to me, if you say we go out to Real Madrid, but we go on to win the FA Cup, I said that's a great success. I'm happy with that. We win the Premier League, I'm delighted. Always winning the Premier League is the aim. And with the Champions League, it's just a bit of a lottery. Anything can happen. You go up against some of the Europe's best. It'd be brilliant to win it. But it's something that we've not won. And because we've not won it, we don't really know what we're missing out on. I have a sense that one day we will win the Champions League. And when we do, the relationship between the competition and the fans is going to grow and get stronger. And I do feel like the relationship is getting stronger. We've had a bit of a ticket fiasco when it came to these semi-final Champions League second leg tickets, where lots of genuine City fans have ended up missing out on tickets because demand is just so high. It's the hottest ticket in town. I can't get hold of a ticket for Manchester City taking on Real Madrid. I can get access to tickets for City for every game this season, every single game. But the Real Madrid game, I cannot. And that tells me there's demand there. The fans want it. The club want it. And you just feel like if we can get a result on Wednesday night, it may just be our year. Knocking out Bayern Munich, knocking out Real Madrid, surely it's our season. But it'd be the most typical City thing ever to do that, get to the final, Inter Milan or AC Milan knock us out, and they go on to win the competition. It's typical City. It's what happens. It's what we do.
Mate, I've watched a couple of teams beat you in a competition, and I've thought, how the hell have City gone out? It seems a little bit of an Achilles heel for whatever reason. Now, again, from the outside, I think, despite how good you are, and I would say I've watched the league since it started in 1992, the Premier League, that is. I think you're probably the best team that I've seen. But I also think that team needs to win the European Cup for everybody else. If that team has... Now, I'm not comparing the Premier League with the French League. I'm not. But I do think there's the possibility of people saying, well, they win domestic thing, but they don't win the European Cup. Is that a fair shout, or do you feel differently as a City fan?
I think from the point of view of the neutral looking in, I always try and look in to be unbiased rather than just looking in as a City fan. I look in at it as they need the Champions League success. We can't be as successful as what we have been without winning the Champions League. And certainly the club recognises this. And I think slowly but surely the fans are starting to recognise this as well, which is why we're seeing the demand there. It's why we're seeing the stadium sell out so often this season when it comes to Champions League games, because there'd often be times where the club would struggle to be able to sell out and get the demand for Champions League games. But the demand is there because people want to watch Manchester City. They believe that Manchester City can go on to win the European Cup. And it also helps that we've got a brilliant marketing player in Erling Haaland, because everybody wants to watch Erling Haaland right now.
Unbelievable player, yeah. Look, I'm going to ask your opinion on my club. I've given you my take on your team and your club. You've got a free hit at me here. To City fans find what's happening to Everton quite funny. Is that a weird team that you'd love to see go down? And the secondary question to that is when you look at Everton from the outside, what do you think has gone wrong?
Everton, for some reasons, always just seems to be that bogey team to us. So me growing up watching City going throughout the noughties, I've just come to expect that no matter when we was facing Everton, whether it be at Goodison Park or whether it be at home, Everton go on to beat us. Now, over the years, while City have got the money and they've become more and more successful, that we've started to find success against Everton. Everton, to me, have always remained that club that when I was growing up watching football, that proper football club, prestigious club, fantastic ground. And to me, seeing a very a team that's, I don't want to say overshadowed in your own city, because growing up, that's what we've had in Manchester. You've had the exact same in Merseyside, at Liverpool as well. And what you want to see is just clubs being more successful. You want to be able to hold your own ground. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to hold your head high and say, we are who we are, and this is what we do. And to me, Everton are a very prestigious English football team, and I think it'd be a great shame to lose them out of the Premier League. I think it'd be a big loss to the Premier League. I certainly think that I don't want to say fans are going to get a bit of a reality check, but we've been in a situation where we've been relegated out of the Premier League, where we've dipped into the lower leagues. And actually what you start to find, if that does happen to your club, is you get a real good community feel, and you get a real good feel-good factor. And I think if Everton, worst case scenario, you do get relegated, you'll be having a brilliant roller coaster ride in the Championship, because there's some brilliant places to visit that you don't often get to visit when you're based in the Premier League, because it is, at the end of the day, in the Premier League, most times you just visit in the same places, seeing the same team. So dipping down sometimes can be good. Burnley's a brilliant example of that. They've dropped down, had a great season, coming back up, fresh and ready to go again. And I firmly believe that Burnley, under Vincent Kompany, are going to stay in the Premier League and have a good, successful season next season. I personally, though, don't think Everton are going to get relegated. I think there's teams down at the bottom that aren't as good. I think the result that you had Monday night against Brighton showcases just what you're capable of. And to me, the players that you've got as well, I think it'd be a bit disappointing to see Everton go down, because with your squad that you've got, you shouldn't be getting relegated. Now, having a look at you from the outside and seeing how your season's gone so far, I can't sit here and judge, because I don't know all the ins and outs at your football club. But what I have seen from Everton is at times lacking the fighting spirit. There's been games where you have turned up. Etihad, for example, turned up and put in a good top quality performance, then lacked with consistency facing other teams, particularly teams sitting in the bottom half. So at the end of the day now, it's happened. There's nothing that you can do about it. The focus has to be on your next 3 Premier League games and trying to secure Premier League status. And actually, as you said at the beginning of the video, at this point last week, you've been looking at it, dreading it. You're coming in now this week feeling much better. And if Everton can grind out and get a result here, could just be the catalyst needed for the last couple of games for them to secure Premier League survival, which, to me, in my personal opinion, I think Everton will stay in the Premier League, because I don't think Leicester, I don't think Leeds, I don't think Nottingham Forest are as good, and I don't think they've got what it takes. And I think Everton, what we saw from Monday anyway, have got what it takes.
I hope you're right, mate. I think the Monday victory at Brighton for our fan base was absolutely massive. Now, I don't speak for every Evertonian, of course I don't, but I think the large volume of Evertonians were looking at Brighton and Man City and thinking, oh my God, please don't let anybody win around us, because we're not going to take anything. Now, the results were Leicester took nothing. Southampton almost are now down. Leeds got done by yourselves, thank you very much. And we got the 3 points. It just puts everything in a different perspective. And we're going into this game now, or I certainly am going into this game now. Last week, like I said to you before, I'm thinking just don't get a hammering, because I don't want our goal difference. I'm now thinking we can actually go and try and play a different way and try and give you, whether we put 5 at the back, whether we put 3 up front, or whether we stick to what we played against Brighton, we can now do either of those things, because I don't think anybody else around us this weekend is going to get any points. I think that we've all got tough fixtures, so it's a little bit of a free hit for Everton. Now, what I alluded to before about the question you know I'm going to ask is Champions League. You've said there that picture of the trophy is internally that success. The result against Madrid on Tuesday, from the outside, I now pray that there's going to be changes. Now, I'm not thick. I know changes don't really mean much, despite what you're saying about squad depth. I think your changes, if you do make them, are good enough to beat Everton. But I think it gives us more of a chance. Do you think that Pep Guardiola will have one eye on next midweek and make some changes on Sunday?
Knowing Pep and how he's been this season, I'd be very surprised if we made more than maybe 3 changes in the squad. And I think the 3 changes that you may see will just be very like-for-like swaps. Bernardo Silva goes on the right wing in midweek against Real Madrid. He might move into midfield. I'm expecting to see either Mahrez or Foden starting on the right wing will be one change. If we're changing things in midfield, I don't think we're going to go with Calvin Phillips because Pep Guardiola doesn't seem like he trusts him too much. So if we are to make a change in midfield, I can see it maybe being in a more advanced role than one of Gundogan or De Bruyne missing out and putting Julian Alvarez in instead, which is something we did against West Ham and Leeds in our previous 2 Premier League games. So I think we might go back to that just to rotate a little bit for the squad. I think Gundogan probably needs the rest more than Kevin De Bruyne. But other than that, I'm not sure. I've not had any update yet on Nathan Ake and if he's going to be fit or not. He didn't travel to Madrid, so I presume he isn't. So I don't see City changing our back 3 system with Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz and Manuel Akanji. Other than that, I'm struggling to see where City make the changes. And arguably, you can look at it in 2 different ways. We can make loads of changes and players could come in fresh into the Real Madrid game, but not as sharp. Or we could go full strength here and have a bit more sharpness about us, but they might look a little bit tired. And I filmed my preview a couple of hours ago, and I mentioned in that game, I mentioned in that video that for this game, if there's ever been a game for Manchester City this season that we could do with scoring 2 or 3 very quick goals, this is the game. The problem is, I think Everton are too good to allow us to do that. We did it a couple of weeks ago against Leicester, and we rotated throughout the second half, and we nearly ended up making a mess of that one. And I think Pep will be a little bit wary about that. And I can see him going very strong in this game. And towards the latter parts of the second half, depending on how the game's going, just rotate maybe 1 or 2 other players and go from there. I think it's important how we manage this situation that we'll find ourselves in these next 7 days are massive on our season because it decides the Premier League and it decides if we get to the Champions League final or not. So the stakes and the pressure are getting very high at Manchester City Football Club right now. And as I said, I'm heading into this game. I feel better about the Real Madrid game because I know what to expect with this game. I've no idea. I don't know, which makes me nervous.
I've told you what the 5-1 result for us done on Monday. Did it do any? Like I'm not delusional. I know you don't look at it, and as how can you as much of a threat? But does that 5-1 result change perception a little bit? Do you now think, good God, if Everton do that again, we're in for a game?
That result you've got on. Sorry, excuse me.
Excuse me.
That result you picked up on Monday to me's changed a lot. Because I was expecting Everton to do what you did at the Etihad, which is sit just a little bit deeper, a little bit tighter, not give us any space like you did at the Etihad, and hope that we have a little bit of an off day. We don't find inward routes to get balls into the forwards, including that of Haaland. Try and mark him out of the game. Upset him a little bit like you did at the Etihad as well. Trip him up, push him around, shove him, upset him, try and get him to lash out, get an early yellow card or something, give him something to think about. And all of a sudden, then you've got a little in route into the game. And that was your approach with this result you've had against Brighton now. To me, I'm hoping, because I think it'll make it an entertaining game, and also from a City point of view, will open Everton up a little bit. I'm hoping you're going to have a good pop at us because I know you've not got Real Madrid's quality on the pitch, but the philosophy remains the same. They had a good pop at us, and they had opportunities to score, and they put an opportunity away, and they've got a result from the game, albeit they'll have wanted to win the game, but they haven't lost the game either. And I think that's important for Everton to look at this and think, you don't want to be sitting deep and just allowing pressure to come onto yourself, because you sit back and defend for 90 minutes. City will find a way forward. City will find a goal. And if City grab that opening goal, it could end up opening that game up, and it could be City go on to score 3 or 4 goals. I've seen City do that numerous times this season. But on the other end, Everton grabbed that opening goal, and all of a sudden, Manchester City have a lot to think about. And we've got tiring legs. It's been a long season. Yeah. All of a sudden, you've got a big opening into the game, and you could get yourself some points potentially, and maybe even a win as well. I wouldn't rule that out either, with City maybe having one eye on that match in Madrid. So it's just this is a very unusual, very strange game, because I don't know what to expect from either team.
It is. It's right. Unusual and strange are probably the two of the most appropriate words to use. I think I'll put my cards on the table with you. I think there'll be a lot of dark arts from Everton on Sunday. I think Everton will. I think Yerry Mina, the big Colombian centre half, I think he likes a fight, and I think he'll try and do to Erling Haaland what Ben Godfrey done on New Year's Eve, which was frustrate him and poke him and things. And I think Rudiger done a good job of that on Tuesday as well, where he just tried to wind him up. I think there'll be a lot of that. I think Everton will play a sort of hybrid way. I think you'll find times in the game we let the shackles off, but for 80% it will be let's give City the ball and let's sit deep. Everton will play for set pieces and the crowds will be with the team. I think if Everton get anything from the game, a lot of things have to go our way. I'm going to give you my prediction. It's going to be 0-0, I think. I think I can see a scenario where you have a lot of the ball and we work hard and we dig in. I can also see a scenario where you win 4-1. Let's not be silly, but my heart's real in my head here. I think Everton might get a draw and it will be 0-0. If you put your Mystic Meg hat on, how do you foresee it going?
I can see, that's why I think we're going to go with Julian Alvarez, because I think you're going to try and man-mark Erling Haaland out the game. I think you'll have watched what you did at the Etihad. You'll have watched what Antonio Rudiger did with Erling Haaland. You don't give him any space. You don't allow him to get any hold of the ball. If you do that, you keep him quiet, and a lot of teams will think to themselves, you keep Haaland quiet, you keep Manchester City quiet. And I think City needs to counteract that. And I think the way we do that is playing an extra attacker. If you're going to man-mark Haaland out the game, well, have World Cup winner Julian Alvarez just behind him.
Not too shabby.
Try and deal with us that way. Is what I'd do anyway. I can see City. We score goals, and I can't see us not scoring here. I think City will score in the first half. I think that'll make City feel a little bit better. I don't know what's going to happen for the second half. My head tells me that we might be dropping points this weekend and that our free hit's going to get used and we're going to need to win our last 3 games. My heart tells me we grab an early goal, we build on that, we grab a second, maybe late first half, early second half, and we start to try and coast this game out to preserve legs ready for Wednesday. So I'll go 2-0 City.
I think that's fair. Any City fans who are watching on the hashtag who've not seen your channel, we've put the tag for your Twitter down below. So the tag on Twitter is JSGC171. For any City fans who are just discovering you, what's coming up on the channel?
I've got some exciting content coming up, actually. We've got our live watch-alongs that we've been covering throughout the season from now until the end of the season. Hoping, fingers crossed, treble will be historic for everyone to come and watch. So looking forward to that. I've got more match reviews and match previews to look forward to. And then from June, I run a daily series called my Manchester City Transfer Updates to do very well year upon year. And I'm looking forward to doing that because City look like they're going to be got money to spend. They're going to be pretty busy as well. So got that to look forward to as well. So it's going to be pretty relentless from now right through till September.
I'm sure it will be. Look, I've watched a few videos when I've done a bit of research, and they're really high quality, really passionate, and really good. So any City fans who are watching on the hashtag, please go and check over the Twitter. It's been a pleasure to have you on, my friend. I'm hoping we can do it again next season. I really do. But look, you've saved many summers for me because we live with that lot across the park, and you've saved many summers. The one summer I'll never forgive you for is the lockdown summer where you put your foot off the gas. But apart from that, you know, I don't dislike Manchester City for obvious reasons, but I'm not going to wish you luck for Sunday. I think we need it. I'm sure you're the same. You need it. It's going to be a fascinating game. But thank you so much for coming back on the channel.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on.